All right. Welcome to 1 year at Oceanworks. Thank you everyone for coming and attending today. My name is Rob Iannelli. I am the founder and president of Oceanworks. And today we're going to go through certainly the past year, but really kind of give you a backstory on where we began, where we're going, and certainly provide some thought leadership in the space. So to give you some sort of synopsis of the history, a few years ago, I founded the world's first sunglasses made from recovered ocean plastics, a brand called Norton Point. And after a successful Kickstarter, a lot of interesting things happened. We realized that a lot of companies were coming to us, not so much for the sunglasses, but really desperate to find recycled ocean plastic material. So much so that they were asking if we had more that we could sell them. And these weren't small businesses. These were Fortune 500 companies. And it started to really become apparent in the months thereafter that this theme was real. There was really a total disconnect between all of this fragmented supply with all of this, sort of growing demand, but there wasn't an exchange, there wasn't a platform or a service to kind of connect all the dots. And that really was like the genesis of Oceanworks. So a year ago today, we hit launch on our website and digital marketplace. And the first thing that we really wanted to introduce as a new idea was the buy now button next to recycled ocean plastics. By creating an e-commerce environment and selling this material online, we kind of triggered what we now are going to talk about today as has been a really wild ride. And in sort of going through that process, we built out an incredible team, and I'm super happy to introduce you to Patrick Todd, who's our global sales director and also manages all of our partnerships. And let's kick this off, Pat.
Thanks, Rob. As many of you know, my name is Patrick. I handle global sales and partnerships for Oceanworks. So I am essentially the customer-facing arm of our B2B marketplace. And I think Rob said it really well, but it is incredible what we've done in 1 year. And it's been a crazy and wild ride. I remember when we did hit that launch button last fall, we had a handful of SKUs across a couple polymers. We had HDPE, polypropylene, and PET. And we were like, let's see what happens and let's see how the market reacts. It was incredibly responded to. We have now sampled and are in development with hundreds of different customers. And we've continued to expand our collection if you've been following our story. Beyond our key drivers of material, we've now recently onboarded nylon. That was a material that was highly demanded by our customers. And already initially, we've been getting great feedback from that. Another category that we've launched is what we call our semi-finished goods category. This is a very interesting thing. While we primarily sell resins, what we quickly realized was there was a growing number of customers that don't necessarily operate that deep in the supply chain on like the raw material basis. So we've gone ahead and we've begun to develop some more turnkey solutions, if you will, that incorporate ocean plastics. These include buttons and zippers with YKK, fabrics. So by being able to provide a more turnkey solution, we're now able to engage with many more of these customers that are just further up in the supply chain. It's opened quite a few doors for us. Most notably as well, we've also launched a category of product called our blended and compounded resins. These are groundbreaking materials. Essentially what they are is they're materials developed with third-party global compounding partners using our ocean plastics as a base. And this really does two things. First and foremost is pushing the limits of what can be done with recycled materials. But moreover, it's expanding the applications in which these materials can be used. So often folks come to us, we need an ABS-like substance, or we need something more engineered than just a base resin. We can now offer turnkey and customized solutions for that. It's helped accelerate offtake of material. And again, it's just opened another set of doors for us to operate within. While we are primarily a seller of resins, we've also developed quite a few services around those, part of the Oceanworks Guaranteed offering. And this suite of services has really helped add value to the materials that we're selling. Rob has really been the driving force behind a lot of these services. So I want to send it back over to him, and he can explain a little bit more about that.
Sure. Thanks, Pat. So services for us has always been about creating trust. And one of the earlier sort of themes that we coined was de-risking ocean plastics. You know, how can you take all of these obstacles, all of these problems, and how can you come up with new ideas that can overcome those? And that really started for us with testing. So we did start small with a few base resins, as Pat mentioned, but we did create sort of an internal standard, which is now has really grown, is by testing our materials with third-party labs. And in doing so, we can really focus on the purity of the material, but also it's a really good tool to compare what we're getting from a technical data sheet from a supplier and how that kind of like matches up to the actual lab results. So once we knew that we had high quality materials that could sort of pass these quality measures, our sampling is really one of these new ideas, if not innovations, we brought to this market that allowed for more like bite-sized amounts of material to be procured. So we heard from a lot of customers, well, you know, years ago I was trying to do recycled or I was looking into ocean plastics, but I don't want to order 20 metric tons off the get-go or 40 metric tons. I need 20 kilograms of material. And what we found is by using our distribution centers and our sampling program, we could effectively create choice, but also allow our customers to take, let's say, 3 different polypropylenes and 3 different HDPEs, sample them in small increments, get them quickly in 3 to 5 days, and then be able to run that through their either production environment or a testing environment to kind of validate whether or not they want to make this larger investment. And in doing so, that sampling as a core service is really what we've built the last year upon, and definitely where we're expanding. But we didn't really stop there, because once you start moving sample materials around the world and then eventually bulk tonnage, then came a lot of interest in freight and logistics. A lot of the markets we operate in are quite foreign to our customers. And so what that means is, you know, the standard business practices of moving freight in these markets can be intimidating. So we bolted on an entire new service and program to effectively provide seamless end-to-end logistics services. And that's just like one of the additional ways we add value to the platform. But at the same time, we also wanted to make sure that we weren't overlooking technology investments. So what we ended up doing was adding a significant amount of technology to our existing stack and working with Oracle to actually bring our traceability system, our track and trace, onto the Oracle Cloud, which not only now gives us a robust capability of providing traceability for all of our shipments, but it kind of layers back into all these other services we provide, with the whole idea that Oceanworks is a one-stop shop. It does provide inherent value at every step along the way. And we're here to be your trusted partner. Now, these are just a few snippets of our services. Certainly welcome you to visit our services pages on our website. It is expanding pretty much on a quarterly basis, but we're always looking for feedback from existing customers, if not prospective, on other obstacles you're facing or other issues that you would love to see a solution for to help you become, you know, either a customer of Oceanworks or just to become more sustainable in general. So I know there's been a lot of focus for you, Pat, on your sort of day-to-day and kind of seeing on the ground what's going on. And I know everyone here would love to kind of get a taste of what you're seeing sort of taking place and what themes are emerging in your day-to-day.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. Being in the position that we're in as a marketplace and having a wide variety of customers, we have thousands of different conversations going on. So the learnings that we're gathering and the noise and the momentum that we're feeling is very real. To start off in terms of what we're seeing day-to-day trends, I don't think it comes as any surprise. Consumers are not shying away from sustainable choices. In many cases, they're demanding sustainable choices. And they also want sustainable choices that have authentic stories built around them, right? It's not as much to just say recycled content anymore, but where is that material coming from? How does it impact the social environments around those collection areas? there's a whole new set of questions and scrutiny that comes along with that. It's also important to note that poll after poll and study after study is showing consumers not only want sustainable choices, but they're willing to spend a little bit more for those sustainable choices too. And I think that that's a huge takeaway to remember as businesses are exploring ocean plastics and other recycled plastic in general. That's the consumer side. On the business side, it's still, and actually it's surprisingly, we're moving in a positive direction, which is extremely encouraging for us. Both big and small business really seem to be doubling down on their development with sustainable materials. And it seems that through kind of this COVID transition that the world's going through, there's a desire to come out of a post-COVID world as a more sustainable company. So we're seeing a lot of that shifting. A lot of that is due and thanks to senior leadership, C-suite, creating internal initiatives and goals to push sustainability forward. We're seeing that on the front lines by having, again, big and small businesses setting groups specifically for sustainability, setting internal budgets, setting internal goals. Those are really helping drive things forward. Beyond business side, we're also seeing government become to get involved. Specifically Europe, really leading the charge right now. Policies are being put in place. These policies are not only putting penalties and tariffs on using virgin plastics, but they're actually creating incentives to use recycled content. So these two things in tandem happening at the same time, we're now beginning to see an acceleration of development, products to market that are using ocean plastic and other recycled materials, and it's generally encouraging. With that said, it's not a super smooth road. Virgin plastic has been around for decades. Businesses have enjoyed relatively low prices. The supply chains are extremely reliable. And there's long-term relationships that are built into these products. So we've had to overcome a lot of these hurdles. I really think that Oceanworks has done a great job of taking down a lot of the barriers. There's still a lot more to go, but we're on the right path. Specifically, when you go into the Oceanworks marketplace and the way that we operate, we've begun to drive costs downward on our materials. Price is the number one question that we get. And obviously sustainability is important, but it has to make financial sense in the business sector. Having an open marketplace that we do, what creates internal competition, we're now beginning to drive that price of material downwards, is helping ease the burden of adoption of ocean plastics. Beyond that, we're creating a lot of authenticity around our materials with our track and trace systems. Our onboarding standards are incredibly rigorous. So the materials that we're offering are very authentic. We have stories around them. There's built-in marketing that comes along with it. So it's really helped accelerate the adoption again of these materials. The Oceanworks system in general, I would say, and this goes to one of the larger roadblocks that we see, is the question around quality and consistency. Everyone's like, is this stuff even going to work in my production? Yes, is the short answer. The Oceanworks method requires a quality over quantity approach to materials that we onboard. So anything that you're shopping on our platform, you should have high confidence, not only in the quality, and that speaks to some of the services that we offer around with it, but a high capacity of material as well too. So if you do embark in an ocean plastic adventure and you want to bring a product to market, we will have the material to back that up. With that said, that's kind of what's happening on the front lines of ocean plastic. I want Rob to speak to where we see the industry going and how we're keeping up with that.
Sure, thanks, Matt. So, generally speaking, as a marketplace, we have a lot of deal flow on demand side, and we have a lot of inbound on suppliers as well. So we're in this unique sort of position where we're gathering a lot of information and kind of synthesizing that to figure out what direction does Oceanworks need to head into, and also starting to realize, well, where is this market going? Where is this space evolving? So there's definitely some key themes here. One is certainly on the supply side that it's going to continue to modernize. And really what that means is historically, a lot of recycling suppliers who are offering and processing recycled ocean plastics, they've been quite antiquated, where they haven't been able to participate in a true global economy sense, because it's been fragmented and it's been siloed. So part of what we've effectively begun to catalyze is modernizing this, to bring it online, to bring this available supply that's not discoverable, and to make it accessible through our platform. So we certainly see that sector growing. At the same time, we're seeing tremendous demand for specific material categories. And in this case, food grade is really becoming a big part of what we do. And because we've seen a lot of requests from corporates and manufacturers in the past year, we got a little bit ahead of the curve and introduced food grade recycled ocean plastics pretty early on, and then was able to build that into multiple polymer categories. And what food grade really represents is like a really big, significant shift in how a lot of brands and FMCGs were using virgin plastic for food packaging. Now starting to see recycled ocean plastics as a great replacement. And as Patrick mentioned earlier, with more available materials, costs are becoming more acceptable, and certainly consumers are there ready, willing, and able to open their wallet, for those products. So outside of of food grade, we're also seeing entirely like new categories that are emerging, in terms of product categories where necessarily using virgin plastics is not necessary. And now with the advent of recycled ocean plastics, there's a new interest in really making a total transition. And we're even starting to see that somewhere in the footwear industry, is how apparel brands, footwear are starting to see recycled as a great storyteller. And we think that virgin plastic is going to fade out in some of those product categories. And I would say lastly, like, expect more suppliers, which is good for everyone involved in this multi-stakeholder supply chain. We're in touch with a lot of the major manufacturers of extruders, food grade extrusion systems, and their phones are ringing off the hook. That has a lot to do with government mandates that Patrick has talked about, and a lot of corporate mandates and corporate pledges to have more recycled content. So the supply side will rise up. So these are just some of the thematic things that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis. But really, like, the biggest thing that we've seen that we're really excited to announce today as our major update, which was, I know, part of the hook of getting everyone in here together today, is that we're launching Averted plastics. And this is a new category on our platform. And what Averted plastics really is mismanaged waste that is beyond 51 kilometers from the coastline. So this effectively is, think of it, the opposite of ocean bound. But what we found in the past year with a lot of companies and a lot of suppliers is brands and manufacturers were asking us, do you have any regular recycled plastic? I love your business model. We're all about incorporating ocean into our portfolio, but I'm also looking for a really high quality post-consumer resin. So we started looking at the landscape and saying to ourselves, well, this whole plastic pollution is a much bigger issue. And it's not just limited to coastlines. It's affecting us in a lot of different parts of our lives, and definitely in different areas in the environment. So what Averted does, it creates more choice on our platform, but it also invites a lot more new suppliers that were queuing up in the past year, eager to work with us. But at that time, we were only onboarding ocean and ocean-bound plastic materials into the portfolio. So we're incredibly excited about this. This is a new idea, but it really opens up the doors to look at plastic pollution as a whole. And at the same time, it really drives more offtake, and it effectively changes how a lot of our customers can engage with Oceanworks and effectively find the material that they need at the right price, quality, and certainly proximity around the world. So we are super excited. We really appreciate all of the feedback from our customers to help us get here. And I know Pat would love to kind of, dive in to kind of understand, to help, explain to our existing customers and future, what Averted means for them.
Absolutely. I can say from the sales side of things, we're incredibly excited about the launch of Averted Plastics. It does a couple of things, and it really helps just bolster the entire Oceanworks one-stop shop platform mentality. First and foremost, we've exponentially increased our material offerings more or less overnight. That now means that we have more choices for our customers. We have materials that fit into different segments and parameters that our customers need. But it allows additional storytelling, higher capacity, higher reliability of materials. And then we also, Averted materials are a typically lower price material as well. So all of these things put together make a really strong case for the Averted category. On a personal note, I'm also extremely excited to have these materials on board because it gives a voice to suppliers that were otherwise kind of left out of the system, right? Like everyone wanted an ocean plastic, which is great, and we'll still continue to offer our ocean plastics. But what happens to those collectors and processors that are just outside of that 50-kilometer range? We now have given them a voice, and they're all within this one-stop shop platform. So for customers that have come to us for ocean plastic, yes, we will continue to expand that category. That is our primary business. But this is a very nice way to supplement that offering with an additional material. And we can stay involved in that conversation, and we can explore both sides of the category together. So from the sales side of things, we're extremely excited about it. If you're already talking with Oceanworks, happy to explore these materials with you, see if they make sense. And if you're a new customer, be prepared to have both materials presented to you, and we can go through them and understand which one may or may not make sense for your project. So with that, that's kind of our big update. I'm looking down here. It looks like there's quite a few questions that have popped up already.
All right.
Rob, why don't we start going through those? If you want to take one or two, and then I can browse through, and we can start going through them.
Okay.
Let's see here. Here's one that I want to take right away. This one popped right up at the top. How does Oceanworks compare to others selling ocean plastic? That's a really interesting question, and we get asked that quite often, obviously. There's a few players in the space. I would just like to point out that we take a very wide approach to ocean plastics. So we're tapping into existing collection networks. We're pulling in existing certifications. We're taking outside help from testing labs. We're putting all of the homework that's already been done onto a standardized platform. As such, we have an incredibly wide selection of materials, an incredibly high capacity of material at the same time. Other players in the space, incredibly authentic. They go out, they set up their own collection facilities, they process their material, they bring that material to market and sell it. Incredibly authentic. You can't take that away from other players in this space. We've just taken a different approach that we really feel offers choice to customers coming to us. Yeah. So rising tides raise all ships. Everyone in this space, I think, plays an important part. But yes, that is how we differ beyond other sellers of ocean plastic. Rob, anything?
No, I think that was perfectly said. So I'll jump into another question here. We're getting a lot. So the question was, what is the minimum order requirements? And that's a really great question. So for sampling, which was very unique with how we set this out, is 10 kilogram increments. That's how we offer sampling services. And then when it comes to bulk tonnage, the minimum order is 2 metric tons. We were able to do this to again provide value, because what we found is even going from sampling and moving on for our customers to go to either production or a smaller production run, a lot of times it's hard to go from 200 kilograms to 20 metric tons, especially when you're vetting out a new product. So we see a lot of demand in the 2 to 5 metric tons as companies are going through that sort of product ideation process.
was great. Rob, another question just popped up here. And this is a nice general question to our entire process. Can you direct me to a video where I can see the whole process from collection to sorting to processing and conversion? Yes and no. Every material that we offer on our marketplace has its own unique story. It has its own unique feedstock and comes from a unique part of the globe. So as such, there is a built-in story to every SKU that we offer. Part of our onboarding process does involve site visits to the manufacturing or the processing locations. So while we're there and we are vetting our supply network, we're also there taking professional photo and video, collecting those assets, and we repurpose those and do two things with them. Obviously, it is great in the compliance side of the business, but for our customers that are using a specific material, we can offer material specific assets that help tell that story. So yes, you can see the process. You can also use those assets to help in your marketing and really tell the story to your customers.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So another question here, is Averted plastics mixed plastic or single plastic type? If single, can you outline categories that's available today? Sure. So we have Averted available in polypro, HDPE, PET, and what's the one I'm missing, Pat? Those three, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. Another question that just popped up here. Do you have FDA grade LD, LLD, and other grades of ocean bound or averted category? We're constantly expanding our marketplace. So we have things in the pipeline that are ready to launch today, a few months from now, a year from now. There's a lot of different forecasting going on. And part of the beauty of a scalable marketplace is that we can continue to onboard new sources of material. Today, we do not have that specific request, but that's noted. And part of what we do is that request then goes out to our technical and sourcing teams, and they begin to find those. So if we're seeing a repetitive pattern of requests, we'll make that come to light. So in this particular situation, it's already been noted, but that's going into a pile of other requests, and we're compiling those, to Rob's point, synthesizing that data, and then bringing those materials to market on the Oceanworks platform.
Yep. Okay, let's see, here's another. Are there any changes to your ocean plastic offerings now that you've launched Averted? Quick answer, no. Actually, we see our ocean plastic program continuing to expand, and we're actually onboarding more suppliers every quarter. We're doing that because there's still a huge gap in fulfilling that demand for ocean plastic materials. But at the same time, Averted was designed and responded to is because we saw that there really has to be a choice. And by looking at it from both perspectives, we see Averted and Ocean very complementary. So yes, we're not making any substantial changes to our Ocean platform, but we definitely see Averted growing at really at the same rate that we see Ocean.
Well said. Another question here, and let me just do a quick time check. We have a couple minutes left, so I think, Rob, about 2 more questions. So I'll take one, maybe you, and then we'll see where that leaves us.
Great.
Why are there only a bulk order feature on some types of your materials? Others have sample. Interesting question. Part of the Oceanworks offering is rapid and robust sampling. At this point in time, we are bringing materials on a daily basis. So what we do is we bring materials on, we test and understand their demand within the market. As we start to get repetitive requests for samples, we'll actually take possession of material, house it in either Singapore or in Los Angeles, and make it available for rapid sampling. So if you are only seeing a bulk order only tag on some materials, in many cases, on the back end, we can actually fulfill samples for you. I encourage you to reach out to an account rep or myself personally, and we can make that happen. But for many of the materials and many of our most popular materials, you'll see a sample now button. You can order in 10 kilogram increments. And in most cases, that material is delivered within 5 to 7 days. It's a pretty incredible sampling program that we have operating.
Yeah. All right. Here's is it possible for a startup to become a client of Oceanworks? This one's near and dear to me. Having been in those shoes as an entrepreneur with an idea and looking to either make a product or a service with recovered ocean plastics, we know this is difficult. But the long story short is that, like, for startups to engage with us, it is possible. But what really needs to happen is there has to be a few key things already set up. Like, you're going to need to have a manufacturing partner. We're not a sourcing company in a sense where we get a lot of requests. I want to make this. Do you have anyone that can help make it for me? Now, unfortunately, that's not our core service, but there are a lot of other services out there that can help you find manufacturers. And it's also important that you really know what material type you need. A lot of the ways that we work best is when, we can actually look, let's say, at an existing technical data sheet of a virgin resin that a customer is using, and then match, or if not, find a very similar comparable with our recycled ocean plastic offering and now Averted. And that really takes out a lot of the guesswork. So it's not that we can't work with startups, it's just they have to be really well prepared and really have a lot of these things really checked off on the list in order to really engage with us so that we can be helpful. But we certainly, implore any startups that are not in that situation to really look at our resources section on our website. It's changing very often. We're adding a lot more content, and the whole idea is to really help prepare you to kind of wrap your head around, how can I take my idea and turn it into reality? And we certainly want to be a part of that when you're ready.
Yeah, Rob, and I guess to that point, one of the things that we pride ourselves on the sales side is we do work with every range of customer and business size, down to a single startup with just the founder operating, all the way up to enterprise at this point. So if you do come to us prepared and you have your ducks in a row, yes, we will work with just about anybody. Time for just one more quick question involving capacity. This is a question that gets asked often. I want to address it. We have hundreds of thousands of metric tons available on an annual basis of material. Of course, as you break that down into different SKUs, there are different capacity restraints, but because we offer multiple choices within each resin category, we have the ability to offer just really at this point, a limitless amount of material. So if capacity is your number one concern, and to many it is, I would say come in with the confidence, have an optimistic attitude. There's a lot of this material. We need people to begin off-taking it. If in a decade's time from now, we can all slap each other on the back and say there's no more recycled material out there left, then we can say job well done. But at this point, there's more material than really anyone knows what to do with. So with that, we are just over time. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope that all are excited about the announcement of our Averted materials. Of course, if you have additional questions, reach out to any of us on the team. We're happy to talk through that with you. And other than that, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will see you soon. Bye.
Yeah.
Wind blowing in my hair, let the sea salt soak in. Coming on me full force, do this with my eyes closed, yeah. Just like that, do it like that, 'cause when I catch that slow motion in your backseat, baby, I'm down for whatever it takes me. I ride it like a wave. I ride it like a wave. I ride it, I'm down for Wind blowing in my hair, let the sea salt soak in. Coming on me full force, do this with my eyes closed, yeah.